Welcome to Links and Locks Action Betting Podcast presented by Bet365. I'm your host, Andy Lack, and I'll be joined alongside Action Golf contributor Tony Sartori for these Best Bets episodes. Tony and I will play 18 holes today, giving our 18 favorite picks for this week's tour event, the British Open. Before we dive into this week's episode, a reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF. In Iowa, terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. Okay, Tony, we're on the first tee here for our British Open Best Bets. Get us started.
Yeah, so I've laid off laying the chalk and choosing the favorite in the past 5 or 6 tournaments, but now that he's back, I am going to go back and do it, and that's Scottie Scheffler at 5-1 at BetMGM. Of course, lamest bet you can make on the board, but I was actually pretty shocked that he opened at 5-1. I made it as more of like 4-1 or plus 425. So I think anywhere above 475 is going to be a pretty playable number for him, as ridiculous as that sounds for someone at a major championship, but it's repetitive to say at this point because everyone knows what he's been doing, but he's won 6 of his past 10 tournaments. He's an extremely elite company historically if he's going to keep this rate up. And even the times he hasn't won, the 4 other non-wins over that 10 tournament stretch, he finished second, 8th, and 41st. So obviously the 41st wasn't a great performance, but even the 3 other times that he didn't win, he was right there. And outside of the U.S. Open, he has gained true strokes putting in 9 of those 10 tournaments. And as we know, that was like his biggest flaw entering this season. And if that part of his game is figured out, there's just really nothing stopping him in terms of his ceiling and his potential. So again, I thought this number was going to be 4, and I wouldn't have taken it at 4, but when I saw 5-1, that was good enough for me to take Scotty.
I'm going to go with Tommy Fleetwood to lead off my my outright card at 25-1. I know he's been a bit of the proverbial bridesmaid in a lot of these major championships, but I just think if there's ever a spot for him to break through, it's going to be in the British Isles. He's had so much success at these open venues in the past. He finished 10th at Liverpool last year, 3rd at Royal Portrush, 4th at St. Andrews. I love his combination of accuracy off the tee and elite approach play. He is playing some great golf at the moment. I know that his putter derailed him a bit on Sunday at the Genesis Scottish Open, but he still gained over 2 strokes off the tee. He still gained over 2 strokes on approach. I think the name of the game here at Royal Troon is you want to identify players that are in great recent form, that have a strong track resume of success on links golf courses, that are very accurate drivers of the golf ball. Tommy Fleetwood checks all of those boxes for me. Hopefully this is the week he breaks through with the big one.
That would be awesome. I'd be a big fan of that outcome happening. My second outright guy is going to be Bryson DeChambeau at 16-1. And the reason I like this play more so than even just the number itself is where he is on the odds board. So he's longer to win than Rory, Xander, and Ludwig. And with all due respect to those guys, they're obviously all these guys should be in the same conversation. But in my opinion, I rate Bryson as higher than those 3 guys right now, and that is not what the odds are saying. I just think he's maybe still not getting quite the respect he deserves among the elite of the elite, because he's just over on live and people aren't really watching him unless he's over on the majors. But with that said, we just saw him win the U.S. Open. And what I liked about that in terms of comparing it to this week, yes, obviously Pinehurst, completely different type of course, but I think it's going to be very, very difficult to score this week. And that was the case at Pinehurst as well. So Bryson proved that he can win a major when it's a low scoring one at that. And I think that's the type of golf we're going to see this week. And that's why I think based on what he did at the U.S. Open, he can replicate that and also win this tournament this week.
I'm going to go with another player that was in the mix at Pinehurst, and Patrick Cantlay, 45-1. I just thought that this was a great number. I couldn't really understand for the life of me why he was so high coming off a contending performance at the U.S. Open, coming off another 5th place finish at the Travelers. I think the thing that we've been looking for Cantlay over the last couple of years, we know that he has the ability to get hot and win a lot of these PGA Tour events. we really wanted to see him hit some shots of consequence in a major championship. And we finally saw him feel that heat of the battle in Pinehurst. And I know he didn't go out and win the fit thing and play better than Rory or Bryson, but he didn't really eject either. Like he hung tough on that back nine on Sunday and had many chances to win. He had a couple putts slide right by the edge, or he really could have been the one holding that trophy on Sunday at Pinehurst. I think those reps in the heat of the battle, that experience coming down the stretch on Sunday in a major championship is going to pay major dividends for him in the future, and hopefully is a jumping off point in his career trajectory at major championships. So mainly just a number play. I thought 45-1 was far too high on a player of Cantlay's caliber in this form.
Yeah, absolutely love that. I can't remember last time we've seen him at a number like 45-1. That brings me to my next guy. I'm gonna go a little deeper down the odds for it, and that's gonna be Corey Conners at 80-1. So I talked about him last week as well, but he's just one of the best ball strikers in this field, and I think ball striking is absolutely gonna be the name of the game this week. So that is just my opinion on itself, makes 81 too good to pass up on someone who I think is a top 5 ball striker in this field. Conners has made the weekend in 26 consecutive tournaments with 14 top 25 finishes over that stretch. So it's not like he can't compete. Yes, he's never won a major and he's only won 2 tour events. But I think if he is to win a major, it's going to come to fruition at a venue that's going to be such a ball striking heavy venue. And also, he finished 9th at this year's U.S. Open, again, going back to Pinehurst. So he proves that he can compete against these high-caliber fields in low-scoring events, which, again, is what I think we will see this week. So, again, just he's such a good ball striker, and with how that is going to be the likely path to success this week, I like Conners at 80-1.
I agree with you. I don't know if I have the confidence in him to win the golf tournament. I took him as a top 10 selection at plus 650 as opposed to the outright, but I'm right there with you. I think that this is going to be a great tournament for Corey Conners. I mean, he's coming off a 9th place finish at the U.S. Open. He just finished top 10 at the Scottish Open as well. And one of the things I talked about a little bit earlier, and this really mirrors what was happening with Brian Harman last year, leading into that Open Championship, is that some of these more unheralded players at longer odds that are just in great recent form and are incredibly accurate drivers of the golf ball and are great approach players. That is exactly what Corey Conners is. Like, there are a lot of similarities between the skill set that Brian Harman had, what we were seeing from Brian Harman in terms of his recent form, and in terms of what Corey Conners is displaying right now as well. I think the thing that I would add is that seems like he's figured out something from a short game and putting perspective. Like, he is chipping and putting the ball incredibly well of late. I think that he has a lot more success, maybe a lot easier of a time on slower greens. He putted very well again last week at the Scottish Open. He's been chipping the ball really well too, gaining around the green in 4 straight starts. So I'm with you, man. Corey Conners plus 650, top 10. I think he's going to have a big week this week at Troon.
I think so too. I'm glad we're on the same page with him. My final outright is going to be a bit of a dart throw, which I obviously have to do when I have Scottie and Bryson on the card. But my final guy is going to be Rasmus Hojgaard at 175-1. So obviously big number here, but he's one of the best players already on the European Tour, and he's just 23 years old. And in terms of potential, I think he's going to be a guy that's definitely going to be has the potential to be a contender at major championships. Do I think he will actually contend and win this one? Probably not, but I think it's a little more likely than 175-1 would suggest. He has 13 top 25 finishes over his past 21 tournaments between both the European Tour and the few events he's played over here on the PGA Tour. And a lot of that success is his ability to bomb off the tee and follow it up with a strong approach game. We keep talking about ball striking. That's important. The one thing that holds me back about him, and we talked about accuracy already, but is his accuracy off the tee. The reason why I think he can get away with it this week, at least get away with it enough, is because at the Genesis Scottish Open last week, he was right at the field average in accuracy off the tee, and that resulted in him finishing in 21st. If he can just maintain at least just relative accuracy, he's going to be gaining distance over people for sure, and his approach game is just as good as many of the young tour guys. So again, just at 175-1, do I think he wins this week? Probably not, but I think the price that's just a good dart throw at that price.
Love that. Yeah, I'm going to take us back into the top 10 market and go with one of the players that just missed my outright card in Collin Morikawa plus 190, top 10. I was really looking for a way to include him this week. I He was hanging around at 20-1 earlier in the week. Now he's all the way down to 14, 16-1, which is probably where he should have been. I just missed out on the 20-1. So I'll probably just settle for exposure to him in the top 10 market. But I just love the way that Morikawa is playing right now. I think the way that he's getting it done is incredibly sustainable. He's doing it with a far more balanced attack than we've seen from Morikawa in the past. Previously, this was a player that we could always count on for his accuracy off the tee and his elite approach play. But this is some of the best chipping and putting that we have seen from Collin Morikawa in quite some time. And I think based on the way that he's chipping and putting right now, that significantly raises his floor. I think he is, outside of Scottie Scheffler and maybe Rory McIlroy, maybe the most likely player to be relevant in this golf tournament based on the floor that we are seeing from both his ball striking and his chipping and putting right now, based on his prior success in Open Championships. Collin Morikawa plus 190, top 10.
So that's a good transition because I was looking at him the same exact way. I wanted to back him so badly this week, and I just did not love 16-1 at all in the outright. So I have him in the first round leader market at 33-1. So he ranks second on tour this season, first round scoring average, only trails Scottie in that department. And this course's profile is well for Morikawa. You talked about already the accurate ball striking, especially off the tee. That is going to play a huge role this week. And he obviously knows how to navigate link style courses. But not only that, it's just he's a two-time major champion. It's not like he can't compete against these guys or at this level. We've seen it all year already. He won the 2021 British Open, so he can win overseas as well. We know the ceiling is there. That there's no question. Does he have the finishing? I think he absolutely is finishing again in top 10, top 5, so that's why I like your bet as well. But he still has not won in quite a while, not since last year's Zozo, I don't think. So I just don't trust him in the outright market at 16-1 for a guy who just has not finished despite being in the top 5, top 10. But I do trust him for sure to have the ability to lead after Thursday, and at the end of the day, he will probably be around there on Sunday as well.
I'm going to take us into the top 20 market and go with Akshay Bhatia plus 400, top 20. I know that this is Akshay's first Open Championship appearance, but like we were talking about with Collin Morikawa, I actually think there's a lot of similarities there. We've seen the modern pro golfer, this younger, newer generation of pro golfer, been able to not really necessarily have to have that links experience that we've always thought that you needed at the Open Championship to break through. I mean, very similar to Morikawa, Akshay is an incredibly accurate driver of the ball, and he's a great overall approach player. And he's got a really great short game, and he's got some upside with the putter as well. He's a really well-rounded player. He's got the well-rounded skill set that I think you need at an Open Championship that's really buoyed by the strength of his accuracy off the tee and his overall approach play, which is kind of that exact same skill set that we saw from Collin Morikawa leading into his 2021 Open Championship victory at Royal St. George's without, having any Open Championship experience in the past. I don't know if I'm quite as bullish on Akshay to win the whole thing, but plus 400 to finish top 20, I think we get a very, very strong performance from the 22-year-old.
Love it. I'm going to keep us in that exact market. I'm going to go after Austin Eckroat, top 20 at 7-1. So at 25 years old, Eckroat delivered his breakthrough tour performance with his win at the Cognizant Classic in the Palm Beaches earlier this season. When you include that performance, he has made the weekend in 11 of his past 14 tournaments, and a large part of the success is due to his accurate ball striking. He has gained true strokes on the approach in 5 consecutive tournaments, while also remaining more accurate off the tee than the field average in 4 of those 5 events. Not only is he capable of winning on tour, which he proved. Okay, well, let me rephrase that. So he won on tour, right? But that was a pretty weak event, weak field. He's still capable of posting a top 20 finish at a major championship. He finished 18th at this year's PGA Championship and 10th at last year's U.S. Open. Do I think he has the ceiling to reach that win like he did at the Cognizant? No, because his field's going to be a million times harder. But I do think his ceiling does include a top 20 finish. I think that is capable for a guy whose game is only continuing to improve. So at 7-1, Eckroat top 20 is that play.
Love that play. I'm going to give one more top 20. I've got a top 20, a top 40 first round later, and then one more outright I want to hit on as well. But my final top 20 is Russell Henley, plus 400 to finish in the top 20. And it kind of goes along with the very similar skill set that I've already talked about with Akshay Bhatia that I've already talked about with Corey Connors, that, I've already talked about to a certain extent as well with Morikawa and Fleetwood too. Henley is just an incredibly accurate driver of the ball. He's a great overall approach player. He's got a sneaky strong major resume. Like, he's really started to show some more form in these major championships. He finished 7th at Pinehurst, and I know that his open form may leave a lot to be desired, but he really checks that box that I'm looking for, that we saw out of Harman last year, with just who is a player that is a very accurate driver of the ball, keeps the ball in play off the tee, avoids trouble. This is going to be a golf course with a very high miss fairway penalty. Happens to have an awesome short game. Henley is one of the best bunker players in this field. I think that's going to matter tremendously around the greens a lot. And it's just a great overall approach player. Very solid short to middle iron player. Will be able to take advantage of the scoring holes on the front nine. Good enough long iron player to hang tough on the back 9 holes as well. I just think this is a really good golf course fit for Russell Henley, and he checks a lot of the boxes that I'm looking for and that we've seen from Open champions in the past in terms of their accurate driving and overall approach play.
Yeah, I love that. I got another top 20 guy as well, and that's Romain Langasque at plus 750. Now, this is obviously the biggest example of recency bias that we've probably ever had in our show, but he just finished 3rd at last week's Genesis Scottish Open, so just why not ride the hot hand? He has finished inside the top 10 in 4 of his past 9 events. Now, granted, most of those were over on the European Tour against fields that are going to be nothing compared to what we see this week, but he has made the weekend in 6 of his 7 career major championship appearances, and he's now playing the best golf of his career. So if he's flirted with this finishing position before against these types of fields, and considering he's the hottest he's ever been in his professional golf career, then I don't see why it's not worth at least taking a dart throw on him to finish inside the top 20 at plus 750.
I'm going to take us to the top 40 market and take a player that is, very similar to the skill set that I've already outlined many times in this podcast already in terms of accuracy off the tee and overall approach play. That's Siwoo Kim plus 145 to finish in the top 40. This is another guy that has that exact same skill set, and we saw it on full display on Sunday at the Scottish Open when he shot 8 under par, one of the best rounds on the entire golf course. He gained over 4 strokes on approach that day. He's won big events in the past before, right? We were talking about the winner of the Players Championship, another golf course that obviously there are a lot of aesthetic differences and agronomical differences in terms of Royal Troon and TPC Sawgrass, but in terms of the required skill set of overall approach play, keeping the ball in play off the tee, both golf courses that I expect to have an incredibly high miss fairway penalty, Siwoo Kim consistently raises his baseline on these types of golf courses. Plus 145, top 40. I think he's going to have a great week. I love his course fit.
Yeah, he just missed my card as well, so I'm glad we were able to get him on the show in some capacity. I'm going to take us to the first round leader market again, and I'm going to go after Tony Finau at 60 to 1. So this is another guy who I was talking about Morikawa earlier. Finau's ceiling is obviously among the highest in this field, but the finishing ability has also just not been there. No wins for him this season, but he has made the weekend in 9 consecutive tournaments with 4 top 8 finishes over that stretch, including a 3rd place finish at the U.S. Open. So the skill set and being able to compete against this field is not a question. It's whether can he close out against this field. And he hasn't shown it that part of his game this year, so therefore I like him more in the first round leader market at 60 to 1 than his outright number. And another thing I want to add on to that is that Finau ranks 12th on tour this season in first round scoring average, which again kind of fits that mold of he's been starting strong and not necessarily closing out on Sundays. And so at 60 to 1 with a guy of that high of a ceiling, I like Finau in that market.
Perfect, because that is the one outright that I wanted to sneak in here as well, and that is Tony Finau 50 to 1 to win this golf tournament. I know that he hasn't necessarily had the major championship success that we're looking for in terms of the wins. But he's got a great open track record, and similar to Patrick Cantlay, he was right there in the mix down to the very last putt at Pinehurst. That was a super impressive performance. He's finished 3rd at Portrush before. He's got another top 10 finish at Carnoustie, and he even finished top 20 in his first Open Championship ever at Royal Troon. Something about these links golf courses seem to fit his eye. He's just hitting his iron so incredibly well at the moment. And similar to Collin Morikawa as well, the short game and putter, we've been getting a lot more out of the short game and putter from Tony Finau lately. He's gained strokes putting in 3 straight starts. He just gained over 4 strokes around the green as well. I think the fact that we can always count on his elite approach play, but the fact that he's starting to chip and putt a lot better gives him a lot of upside to win this golf tournament. So Tony Finau, 50-1 to win the Open Championship.
I love it. My final play is another first round leader play, and that's Alex Noren at 80-1. So he's never won on tour, and I don't think that ceiling is going to be there in a field this loaded. But I do think his floor is high enough to where he can compete during any single round. So why not Thursday's opening round? He ranks sixth on tour this season in first round scoring average and has made the weekend in 19 of his past 22 starts. He boasts 14 top 25 finishes over that stretch, the majority of which occur because he's an accurate ball striker, both off the tee and on the approach, which again, we keep profiling of how important that's going to be this week. He just profiles well for this course specifically, and he starts strong in tournaments, usually doesn't finish as strong. So I think he's just a good flyer to take at 80-1 in the first round leader market.
I'm going to finish this off with one more first round leader in Cameron Young at 60-1. I just think that this is a player with a ton of upside to absolutely destroy this golf course. I mean, I think the prudent strategy off the tee is to play a lot more conservatively. But we have seen the occasional player. Cameron Young did this last year at Royal Liverpool. We saw JB Holmes do this at Royal Trin in 2016. If you are able to thread the needle with your driver on some of these holes and drive the ball both long and straight, you will possess a tremendous advantage. I love the way that Cameron Young is driving the ball right now. He's got 2 strong finishes in a row at the Rocket Mortgage and the Travelers Championship. Even if we don't trust him to put it together for 4 rounds, he tends to struggle on Sundays. I think he is one of the best candidates to get out to a hot start. He's finished top 10 in both of his last 2 Open appearances. And that will do it for our Best Bets episode for the Open Championship. Before we get out of here, a final reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF. In Iowa, terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. As a reminder, our action experts Spencer Aguiar and Nick Bretwish return with host Roberto Arguello tomorrow for our Open Championship betting preview right here on the Links and Locks podcast. So for Tony Sartori, I'm your host, Andy Wack, and we will see you back here next week on the Links and Locks podcast presented by Bet365.